It took a while for me to get the slab that I wanted, as you can see by the amounts of souls that I have now. And during the last run, when I actually got a slab drop, I got a second in the same run. So I suppose I can't really complain too much about that. So now that I've got a composite bow and the scythe at plus 15, I shouldn't need to do any farming throughout the rest of this playthrough. If I feel like using another weapon at any point, I've got enough materials to be able to fully upgrade one. I also upgraded the Thief Mask, Wanderer Coat and Night Leggings to plus 9, because why not? I had plenty of chunks from all the farming runs that didn't give me a slab, so I needed to do something with them. In what will be part 13 of this playthrough, I spoke about Twitter, the 1 million views special, and a couple of other things I'm working on. So for this part, I'm going to try and keep my commentary more relevant to what's happening as I'm playing. If you're wondering, I can safely say it'll be part 13, because I checked the video length times before I started recording again. Anyway, as for what I'm hoping to get done in this part before I stop recording for the day, is join the Forest Hunter Covenant so I can access Shiva as a merchant in Blighttown. Then I'll kill Sif to obtain the Covenant of Artorias ring. Then it will be onto the 4 Kings. I'm not going to level up for the time being for 2 reasons. The first is, it won't be necessary. And the second is, I'm still undecided as to how I'm going to level my stats. As most of you who read the descriptions in videos will know, I've already determined the final stats for this build. Which brings me to my next point. I've been asked several times, why don't you take dexterity to 45 for the fastest cast speed? Well, the reason I'm not going to do that is because I don't think it's necessary. The casting speed at 40 dexterity is good enough, and going up 5 more levels for a very marginally quicker casting speed and a minimal return on the attack rating of the weapons I'll be using just doesn't seem worthwhile to me. Some people like to have the absolute fastest casting speed for builds that use sorceries, pyromancies or miracles, but I prefer a more direct approach when it comes to PvP and PvE. So I'm not going to be racing with another player to see who can cast pyromancies the fastest. I did have a build with 45 dexterity at one point several months ago, but I ended up deleting her, and I've never bothered with 45 dexterity since. Now that I've exhausted Shiva's dialogue, he'll be waiting for me in Blighttown. I'll stop by the giant mushrooms on the way to Sif to pick up a couple of gold pine resins. Then I'll go and put that big puppy down. I would have preferred it if I could have waited until clearing the DLC before fighting Sif, but I want to join the Dark Wraith Covenant in this playthrough, and I can't do both unfortunately. For those who don't know, or don't have the DLC, there's an alternate cutscene for the Sif boss fight if you fight him after you've killed Manus in the DLC. and it's one that seems to have had quite an impact on how Sif is approached by some players. To avoid spoiling anything for those who don't know about this alternate cutscene, I'll just say a lot of people don't like the idea of killing Sif after seeing it. Speaking of Sif, I did a no damage boss fight against him in New Game Plus on one of my other characters not too long ago using a scythe, so I'm going to attempt to do the same here. If I do end up getting hit, then I get hit. I'm not going to restart the boss fight here just for taking damage. Alright, let's see how I do. I failed the no damage challenge right there. I'm not sure if you noticed, but even though Sif didn't jump on me, he clipped me as he jumped away, which does do a very small amount of damage. When I did the no damage boss fight, I had to restart a few times for this exact reason. The sword swings are relatively easy to dodge, but those jumps are a bit of a nuisance if you want to do a no damage boss challenge here. And then I go and get hit by one of his attacks. I suppose it could have been worse. Anyway, moving on. Alright, so now that I'm at Firelink, I just need to do a couple of things before I move on to the Four Kings. Because I need to equip the Covenant of Artorias ring, I'm going to need to remove Havel's. And because I still want to fast roll, I'm going to need to switch my armor around again. With that taken care of, I'm good to go. Anyway, my plans for when I've completed this build, or at least close to completing it, I want to do some random invasions, and I've narrowed down where the invasions will take place to a few locations. Lost Izalith is at the top of my list for places to invade, followed by the Kiln, the Painted World of Ariamis, and the Forest. I'll be recording a video on the random invasions that I do, and I'll be including all of the areas I just mentioned. But I'd like to know, is there anywhere else you'd like to see random invasions happen? There's still plenty of time before I get around to doing that, but I'll take note of all location suggestions and keep them for future reference. So when the time comes, I can look over the notes I'll be taking on invasion locations, and do a few invasions in the suggested areas. I'm just going to finish off the rest of the Dark Wraiths on this side of New Londo, and then it'll be on to the Four Kings. If I'm lucky, I'll get another Titanite slab drop. I'll need to take care of a few ghosts on this side too. I don't want them following me around and hassling me. One Dark Wraith left to deal with now. Okay, so the third ghost decided it didn't want to show itself. It'll most likely appear after I quit and reload to get rid of the effect of the transient curse, just to be a pain. I just received that call in regards to my insurance that I was waiting for, and at such a convenient time too. I had to quit the game just as I had the 4 Kings health bar down to less than a quarter. So now I've got to do it all over again. At least I wasn't setting myself a no damage challenge though. Anyway, time to get this boss fight started. Then I'll place the Lordvessel so I can access the Dark Wraith Covenant at a later point. I'm going to wait until after I've joined the Chaos Servant Covenant and offered 30 humanity for both pyromancies before I join the Dark Wraith Covenant and offer 30 humanity for the Dark Set and Dark Sword. I'll need to farm some humanity later to cover what I need for both covenants, but because the Dark Wraith Covenant isn't going to affect my playthrough, I can wait until I've reached the Chasm of the Abyss in the DLC before I stop to do some humanity farming. I thought I had it finished for a second there. That can't be any more than 100 hit points left. $114 damage. Come to think of it, it probably didn't even have 50 HP left. Anyway, now that that's taken care of, I'll get this bonfire fully kindled, skip through all of Karth's dialogue so I can place the Lordvessel, then walk to Firelink to get ready for the trip back to Blighttown, and be quiet for a couple of minutes while I'm doing all of this.
set eyes on you and be very. This is Quinn. What?
Force of habit. There was no reason for me to rest at the bonfire then. I can warp to Firelink now, after all. I'm just making my way to Blighttown now, but I'll need to make a stop along the way so I can pick up the witch set. Both Quailana and Shiva will be in Blighttown now, and I should have enough souls to buy all of the pyromancies from Quailana, fully upgrade my pyromancy flame, and have enough left over to buy a few things from Shiva. I'll want a washing pole and 2 Uchigatanas, and hopefully I'll still have enough after that to buy the Eastwood Grain Ring and 2 claws. The reason I want 2 Uchigatanas isn't because I want to dual wield them, but because I want to have the giant blacksmith ascend one of them into a chaos blade. I was talking to a few people about this a while back, and I'd like to know, what's the most stupid way you've ever lost a decent amount of souls and humanity? For me, it was when I had my soul level 10 witch character, which is going back to November-December 2011. I was farming for red slabs from the Chaos Eaters in Lost Izalith, and I was using the Symbol of Avarice to do so. It must have been quite late, because I remember being pretty tired, and I ended up dozing off for about 10 minutes or so. When I woke up from my little nap, I saw that I'd lost 99 of my humanity and more than 2 million souls, which might not seem like such a big deal, but during patch 104, humanity drop rates weren't nearly as good as they are now, and the souls from enemies were quite a bit less, so it took quite a while to get back to what I was at. After I'm done purchasing everything I want from Quailana and Shiva, I'm going to stop recording at the bonfire and end the recording there for the day. I'm thinking that the Great Hollow and Ash Lake should be my next stops. But before I do that in the next part, I'll need to walk back to Firelink quickly so I can progress Siegmeyer's storyline, so that he appears here in Blighttown. Because the Demon Ruins and Lost Izalith are the next boss areas I plan on doing, it makes more sense to make sure he's there sooner rather than later. And I'll be getting the speckled stoneplate ring from him, as opposed to the Titanite slab from completing his quest line, which I'll go into more detail on later. Now, before I finish up here, I just wanted to remind you all again that I will be posting updates on Twitter for any projects that I have in the works, whether it's Dark Souls or not. So, Dark Souls co-op and PvP sessions that I'm going to participate, or am participating in, with the specifics on soul level range and the like, of course, as well as general updates for what's happening. So if you're not already following, I highly recommend you do so, as it will help keep you updated on what's happening. And it's much easier for me to post one update than answering the same question in several different places, so it really is much more convenient for all of us. With that said, I'll see you all next time.